What's going on, everyone? Cleanspark just dropped their mining update. We're going to look at that. We also have earnings coming up, and I'm going to talk about my expectations. We do have an update on their 50 exahash mid-year goal. We remain committed to our core fundamentals and are on track to reach 50 exahash by mid-year. Ongoing construction in Tennessee and Wyoming are nearing completion and will represent a step forward in expanding operating capacity and long-term value creation. They also mention their $200 million credit facility with Coinbase, and also mention how they've monetized a portion of their Bitcoin production, which we will see in a second, to fully self-fund operations and manage liquidity proactively. They also sold their Bitcoin at an average $90,000. As we'll discuss further in our upcoming earnings call, we believe that our institutional treasury capabilities will further enhance Cleanspark's leadership in operational excellence and capital. Speaking of earnings, both Cleanspark and Mara are reporting earnings on May the 8th on Thursday. And here's Marathon's official announcement as well, mentioning May the 8th, Thursday at 5 p.m. Two of the largest Bitcoin miners reporting on May 8th. And these are the first to report, to my knowledge at least. I could be wrong though. Now, looking at Cleanspark's actual numbers for the month, they did produce 633 Bitcoin in April, which brings them up to a holdings of 12,101. Their hash rate didn't move much month over month, still sitting at 42.4 exahash. Their fleet efficiency did improve. They were above 17 in their last mining update. Now we're sitting at a hair under 17. A smaller number is better. The lower joules per terahash, the better. A lot of these companies are still in the 20s and above. They did sell a sizable portion of their Bitcoin, 401 of their 633 mined in the month. So it is good to see that they added to their overall holdings, and they are supposedly going to be utilizing this so we don't see as much dilution. But as I said before, I'll believe it when I see it. These Bitcoin miners are notorious for dilution, and it's a necessary evil for companies that tend to not be profitable. Where else are they going to derive their money from? So it is nice to see that they are utilizing some of their Bitcoin to hopefully be less diluted for shareholders. We'll see if there's enough to keep their aggressive growth going. Now, I did want to talk about Bitcoin and its price and where it relates to earnings. And one thing to realize is the quarter ended in March. January, February, March is the quarter that's going to be reported. Bitcoin started its recovery here literally at the beginning of April. Bitcoin ended Q1 at essentially $82,000. It's gained about 10,000 since then. This price move isn't accounted for in Q1. It is going to be accounted for in the next quarter, seeing as it started in April. So overall, Bitcoin lost some gains in the quarter. This is quite different than Q4, where Bitcoin overall gained percentage, which directly benefited the Bitcoin miners. Because of the FASB rule change, they can now report unrealized gains on Bitcoin rather than only unrealized losses. That doesn't matter this time because Bitcoin did overall drop in the quarter, and Bitcoin has gained about 15% in Q2. However, in Q1, the quarter being reported, Bitcoin has lost right around 10, maybe 12%. Started in the low 90s, ended up in the mid 80s, low 80s. So I don't think this is going to be an amazing quarter for the Bitcoin miners, but maybe this is being somewhat priced in since the Bitcoin miners have been performing so horribly lately. And while Cleanspark is up about 20% from April, Cleanspark is still down roughly 25% from where it was in mid-February. Maybe the market is pricing in the fact that these earnings are likely not to look that great, likely to see unprofitability. Cleanspark does have a tendency of seeing some solid moves after a break of a descending resistance, similarly to what we saw back here in 2023. Consistent, lower highs, lower lows, a clear descending resistance until it finally breaks out and sees a big move. Perhaps this breakout comes right around earnings. Perhaps we have to go lower first, find this as resistance once more, and kind of fill this pattern a bit more before we can finally break out. But I do believe a breakout is coming unless Bitcoin and the market just continue to sell off. Once we get through Q1 and what it's going to be reported as, Q2 so far, as shown with Bitcoin's price, is looking pretty good. But of course, the quarter being reported is Q1, or Cleanspark's fiscal Q2, which is January, February, March, where Bitcoin overall contracted. So long story short, I'm not personally expecting great things from this earnings, but perhaps the market isn't really either because of the Bitcoin miners' performance lately. I think the market is aware that these Bitcoin miners are unlikely to post a profit, and they have been selling off because of that. Now, looking at Bitcoin, it is still working on that golden cross. We are getting closer and closer to it. Barring a drop under 90,000, a retest of these moving averages and dropping under them again, I do think we are going to see a golden cross soon. Bitcoin was able to successfully break over 95, brought it to roughly 98, these zones we were talking about. However, that didn't hold, broke back down, And I think there's a good chance we do come down and test 91.92. This would also be a perfect time to test the 200 MA, which we haven't really back tested. We just kind of broke out of it and have seen a pretty nice run for Bitcoin so far. Now I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this third death cross this cycle marked the bottom just as the other two have? Or do you think we're going lower than this 76,000? I personally find it a bit unlikely we go lower than that, but I'm curious what you guys think. We tend to see these explosive moves once we post a golden cross. The death crosses seem to mark the bottom during a short-term fear, just like it did with Mt. Gox. Here was the bottom, here was the death cross. Again, on our pullback in 2023 down to 25 from the 30s, that marked the bottom. These death crosses tend to be great buying opportunities. But also, once we finally get that golden cross from a death cross, we see these explosive moves. Look at the last one. We were down at 34,000, had a massive run. Look at this golden cross. Down here at 66,000, had a massive run. If we can get that golden cross again, if we can keep these gains, if we just don't completely sell off and break both of these, as long as we can keep trading up here, even if it's sideways, we will get that golden cross. And I do think we're going to see an explosive move like we have in every golden cross so far this cycle. But I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think the cycle will play out? Do you think we're going to see roughly 150k Bitcoin or maybe more? Or do you think we have already topped out a hair under 110,000? Keep in mind we are roughly a 15% move away from all-time highs, and that can come very quickly. But thanks again for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one.